The Los Angeles Lakers beat the Phoenix Suns, but my goodness, did it take everything out of them. 100-95. They were trailing by 12 entering the fourth quarter. LeBron James has to score 11 in the fourth, 11 of his 21. Anthony Davis has to score 13 of his 30 in the fourth. And that might sound great. Oh, they stepped up. They came through in the clutch. Great. Until you realize that Devin Booker wasn't playing for the Suns. Bradley Beal wasn't playing for the Suns. And I'm telling you, Martin, it shouldn't take that much. It shouldn't take Herculean performances from LeBron James and Anthony Davis for the Lakers to survive Kevin Durant and a bunch of role players.
Sure.
To put it kindly. And LeBron had to break his minutes restriction, which is 28 to 30 minutes a game. He played 35, including the last 14 minutes and 48 seconds. So, Martin, what is your takeaway from last night's game? What are your thoughts, brother?
My thoughts, well, first of all, how is it that you got two of your big three sitting out on day 2 of the season? Thanks a lot. I thought this 65-game minimum was supposed to mean something in terms of seeing stars play, especially on a TNT national televised game. All right, I got that out. Now, secondly, how many times with LeBron James we're going to see this happen? All offseason we hear, oh, you know what? LeBron's going to start doing this in his game. Chris, you may remember the track from a few years ago. LeBron's going to come off the ball more, right? And then all of a sudden, boom, what happens 5 games into the season?
He did last year, I thought.
But, I mean, it's still, he's a lot of times he's handling the ball, and he's a primary ball handler when it really comes down to it, right? We've seen this before. Now with this minutes restriction thing, what's the point of even coming out here and saying we're going to try to establish it if you're not going to keep to it? All right? 30 minutes game 1, 35 minutes game 2. The reason why it exists is because he's been hurt the last few years. We have to understand that this is the literal oldest player in the NBA. Not an exaggeration, not hyperbole. The oldest player in the league, now that Iguodala and Udonis Haslem have retired. And he is carrying the mantle for this team. So my thing is this. This is a team last year, albeit having Russell Westbrook on the roster, but this is a team that overcame, all right, not withstood, not overcame, starting last season 2-10 to make the postseason and go to the Western Conference Finals, right? Now, do you want to do it in the play-in game? Not necessarily. But I think in game 2, maybe it's a better idea to sit the only reason why you were in, I shouldn't say, but one of the major reasons why you were able to go on the run that you went on last season, follow the minutes restrictions that you said was your plan all summer, and then potentially determine whether or not somebody else can develop into a clutch player that you can depend on in the moment. Everybody talks about how great Austin Reeves is. Austin Reeves last night fouled Kevin Durant to tie the game up on an and one, and he blew the cover, which doesn't matter for which our purposes, but blew the cover, blew the 7. But anyway, my point is this: why not work Austin Reeves, Anthony Davis 2-man game when in a situation where LeBron is not on the floor, instead of just leaning all on LeBron because he's the oldest player in the league. This team goes as Anthony Davis and the rest of them go. So why would you not? You understand what you're getting out of LeBron at this point in time.
I think, look, it's a decent point. Let the other players, do some of these things
just to put a pin in it. Better. Just to put a pin in it. If none of these guys pan out, then you got, D'Angelo Russell's contract. Let's move it. You know what I'm saying? Let's figure out something we could do to see where we have holes and fill those holes as the season progresses. Because what the Lakers showed you last year is doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they're the 1 seed or the 4 seed or the freaking 10 seed, as long as they got a ticket to the dance. I would suggest, making it in the top matter.
8. I hear you, and that sounds good.
This guy. It
Let's
sounds
let
good.
Austin-
That's the best
let's
thing
let
you've heard all day,
Austin-
Broussard.
Let's let Austin Reeves and Gabe Vincent learn. Martin Weiss, I hate to break it to you. It's not CYO. This is not the junior varsity. This is not intramurals at the University of Michigan where you went. This is big boy stuff. This is professional basketball. Okay? These games matter. You practice in the off season. You practice at practice during the regular season. That's when you get better. And then you go out and do it in the game. I don't have time to experiment with you in a real game. The Western Conference, in case you haven't noticed, is stacked. Might be one easy night. Portland. Might be, and they got talent. I mean, man, these games, the West is even deeper than it was last year, Martin. They got to win some games. And the shame of it is that the D'Angelo Russells and the Austin Reeves and the Gabe Vincents and the Taurean Princes, although he played well in the first game, they're not delivering. All right? And LeBron James has to step out there at 38 years old and play 35 minutes. If he played 30 minutes, that gives the other guys 18 minutes, Martin, to do their thing, to show me something. But they're not showing me enough. And the Lakers cannot let the hole get too big. They don't want to dig themselves out of a 2-10 hole again like they did last year. LeBron's about to be 39 years old. He can't do it. So they want to play well throughout the season. And the shame is not that they didn't let the other guys cook. The shame is that LeBron had in game 2 to go out there and break the minutes restriction, because if he didn't, they would have lost to Kevin Durant and a bunch of role players. I'm being kind.
Sure, the guys who were filling in the roster. But you know what? Doesn't matter. Ultimately,
What?
in this whole big conversation, LeBron James is playing for what? Championships.
Right.
And you can't win one of those before Halloween. All right?
Well, you certainly can't win one if you don't make the playoffs.
I get that. But if you lose game 2 of the season, I think you'll be all right. Now, sure, if we're talking about starting, if it's the difference between going 1-9 and 2-10, then maybe it's time to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Maybe this plan that we spent all summer establishing is absolutely terrible. But Chris Broussard,
I do
you
think
must
they're
be
going to stick to. Don't you think? Like, I think they're going to enter the next game and the game after that with the idea to play LeBron 28 to 30 minutes. And then if they need to have him play a few more minutes, I mean, they won't do it every game. Some nights they might take the L. But if they need to play him a little bit more, they will. And last night they wanted that game.
I get it. But we'll see how it plays out going forward, right? Because he did play. I mean, I bet they won a game 1 against Denver, but he didn't play 35 there. So how many and I know obviously in the NBA there are certain regular season games that matter less than others. But just the thing that gets me, you had a plan. Stick to the plan. And if you don't want to stick to the plan, what was the point?
Well, you know LeBron don't want to stick to the plan, nor does he want to lose.
What was the point in signing off on the plan? Chris,
because he knows it's best for him.
then follow the plan. When you get in your car and you say, I need to get to this destination, you put the GPS on your phone, and then all of a sudden,
when I get in the car and I say I'm going to drive the speed limit, and then at a certain point I'm running late and I really need to get there, I start speeding. That's what happened here. LeBron was going to play by the rules. But then he was running late and said, you know what, I got to get there.
If you are running late on game 2, then you needed to leave your house earlier. You needed to plan better, right?
He did plan. There was an accident.
Look, So you're the type of person, as soon as you run into a little thicket of traffic, even though Google Maps and Apple Maps and Waze and every other street direction says this is the fastest route, even with the traffic, you're like, no, I'm going to turn right and see if I can get around this, just because as soon as you run into your first level of any pushback from the previously described plan. No, it's ludicrous.
I'll tell you what else they need to do. When LeBron's out there, he needs to be playing point. He needs to have the ball in his hands, because most of those guys aren't good decision makers. When LeBron is off the ball, if you notice, and he's on that wing out by the three-point line, he's not doing anything. And it's not as much on him. They're not getting him involved. D'Angelo Russell isn't the type of point guard that thinks, let me get guys involved. Austin Reeves just may not be good enough. Let me get guys involved. LeBron is one of the few guys on that team that gets others involved. And that would help them too. And so I think he can pace himself. He's clearly, Martin, he's got to pace himself. He can do it in spurts. You see that. Mm-hmm. And he can pace himself as the point guard. I mean, unless they start picking him up 94 feet and making him work every time. But they don't do that in the NBA for the most part. So he should be able to pace himself at point as a decision maker, and because he can create for other players, whereas the other players don't create anything for him for the most part. Well, so
maybe they would if with the opportunity. That's all.
They've had the opportunity. He's been off the ball, and he was off the ball last year a lot. I mean, before last season, he would handle the ball 70% of the time throughout his career. He's been off the ball a lot more, I think, that last year and the few games we've seen this year, but it doesn't go well for them when he's off the ball. But he can't be on the ball an entire game. But if you're going to limit him to 30 minutes, I think he can.